I take karate right now, all right? I'm in the 12 to 14 age bracket, and my instructor said I'm the best kid in there.
What's up, Mike? My name is Nigel Chambers. I'm from Big O Belt Media. Congratulations. Your new film, Stealing Jokes, is available right now on demand and digital. My friend, how you feeling?
I feel good, man.
As
I
you
feel good.
should. And let's talk about, you stepping back into the writer director seat after some years. This is a huge accomplishment. Your style is much needed, especially in a time where we all could use a little bit of jokes here and there.
Thank you.
But just for you personally, what does it mean to get to this point in your career in this journey to release this project?
Man, it means a ton. Like, I think it was just perfect timing to let the world know comedy's important. You know what I mean? Laughter's important. And take care of your artists, most
Yeah.
importantly. You know what I mean? So the sentiment of this movie was just like, yo, we put ourselves in danger. Comedians are out there in this, you know what I mean, traveling the country, no real security. Sometimes these people are like, yo, we don't have the money that we said we were gonna pay you. And so I always just wanted to make a movie about like, no, you're gonna pay us. And however we got to get the money, we're gonna get it. And even if we're funny, we're not gonna be that funny when we come get the money. So you know what I mean? So I just always, listen, man, I'm from Detroit. I just, comedy is like my life. I love it. You know what I mean? And I've heard too many stories of comedians being on the road
Yeah.
and getting stiffed, or like being left at the airport, not getting a ride. And like, it's just not okay. So I just
Yeah.
had that like sentiment in my heart. And so I had to write this movie. And luckily, with I found the producers and we got to make it. And
Yeah.
so here we go. Ocean's 11 for comedians. Pay us our money.
That's a great way of putting it there. I mean, obviously, you've been so well respected within this community, and I'm sure you had a Rolodex of talent you could have had involved. And to the folks that you do, I mean, it's an all-star cast. So let's talk about really quickly about possibly the measure of trimming the fat, because I would imagine when you have pitched this ideas to some, I mean, who wouldn't want to sign up on something that they know at a point that they personally experience, and to have us sort of have this sort of aspect on it. I mean, who wouldn't want to participate? So just for you, when you came to this fruition, you started putting the pen to the paper and idea, and you started making some calls here. What was the sort of vetting process in terms of just narrowing down to this star-studded cast that you ended up with?
Listen, I was lucky. Everybody that read the script kind of wanted to be in it, right? Then it came down to like, who can you afford on an independent film,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And then it was like, so I got really lucky. And part of the fun of the movie is these little mini testimonials that go throughout the movie,
yeah.
where like Sebastian Maniscalco and Paul Verzi and Annie Letterman and Pauly Shore.
Yep.
So I got everyone I asked to cameo, Felipe Esparza, they all said yes. All I did was call him and go, listen, I'm doing a movie about comedians getting stiffed on the road and getting their money. I want you to tell me a 30-second story. And so throughout the actual movie, I have these great moments. And every comedian I talked to like had a story, and they
Yeah.
had a moment. Like, even like Sebastian tells a story real quick. Like, he went and did a charity gig and they paid him in like a fake check. And
Diaries.
he knew the check was fake, but he took it to the bank anyway, and the bank was like, "This is a fraud." He goes, "Yeah, I know. I was just making sure." And so every comedian at every level has had this crazy moment of like, which is ironic because it's like, yo, we're out there telling jokes, making your life better. Why are you doing this to us?
Yeah.
So that was just like, we've all felt less than, and we've all felt like, just mistreated at some time, and not getting paid what we're owed. Like, even if you go open for a big time comedian who's making 100,000 a night, they're like, you get to open for this guy. Here's $150. You're like, I don't understand what's happening right now. So it's a really weird world, but this was my way of saying, give comedians their due
Yeah.
because they're important.
Yeah. You mentioned all of your contributions to this. We should also mention a Detroit legend and White Boy Rick also having a cameo. Now, how did that come about there? That's a call you had to make there.
No, that's so crazy. So Believe it or not, Rick, so he was in prison, obviously 32 years. His last couple years in prison, he wanted to write a book about his life through a connection. We're both from Detroit area. He used to have, believe it or not, when I was in middle school, white boy Rick had a house behind my middle school. He would walk across the middle school in like a fur coat and go to the pizza
Oh,
spot with like 10,000 in his pocket and go get a pizza and just like not even count the money and just leave it. He was already kind of famous, but his last couple of years in prison, he got a hold of me through a mutual like Hollywood friend. And because I was from Detroit, we start talking. He was, calling me on that J pay from prison. He's calling me all the time and he started telling me a story. I'm like, dude, his movie was going to come out about his life and he wanted me to write his book. And so he started telling me his story. And I actually ended up writing like 14 chapters of his book. And when he got out of prison, like, right, they made the move. They weren't going to let him out.
yeah.
A lot of people had to push to get him paroled. He had gotten denied like 5 times. And when he got out of prison, he came to see me like the first week he was out and in Detroit. And we were just like, yo, he just like we shook hands. It was good to meet him. And we just kind of became friends. And when I was shooting the movie, I was like, yo, Rick, would you be cool being in a prison scene? I don't want to shock your system. I'm not trying to like give you a flashback or like, make you feel a certain type of way. And he was super cool. He was like, yeah, bro, anything you want.
Yeah.
And so I put him in a prison scene. And obviously the camera gets to freeze on him. And
Yeah.
we say, we give him a little tribute there. But the system did him wrong. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
he was no angel. He'll admit that he was no angel as a kid. But the way they played him and to give him 32 years on a nonviolent drug offense was just
Yeah.
next level. And it was for multiple reasons and all kinds of weird stuff in Detroit at the
Yeah.
time. So I wanted to just kind of like give him a tribute in the movie. And he was totally with it.
Yeah. Hey man, real recognize real, and nobody's going to deny that Detroit was running it back then. So they wanted to make a name for themselves out there, so they had to go after these boys, and glad he's home, and Big Meech just came home.
I
Detroit
heard
Legends are back, so Detroit
it's
back
so
up.
crazy. It's so crazy because I told Rick, this is the truth of it. I said, dude, the worst thing that happened to you was that you got a nickname.
Yeah.
And when you got a nickname and you became famous, they wanted to take you down,
Yep.
period. Because they
Yep.
wanted to be the people that took down white boy Rick.
Yep.
Now, Rick will tell you he wasn't a kingpin. He wasn't a dude that was like, he wasn't moving. There's way bigger kingpins that you never heard of. But because he had a famous name, and obviously because he was right in the heart of Detroit,
Yep.
and he was working for the feds on the one side, and he was also doing dirt on the other side. Obviously, he was not a smart kid when he was young. He
Yeah.
made some big mistakes, but he was a kid. He was 16, 15, 16, 17 years old, thinking he was living in a movie. I go, bro, you thought you were a movie star. He goes, yeah, bro. Like, he told me a story where the feds gave him like $2,000 to go to Vegas for the Tommy Hearns fight, and he was supposed to go there and get some information, right, about what was going on between Detroit, Vegas, and Miami.
Hmm.
He goes out to the fight with $2,000. He just ends up with a hooker and partying for 2 days, doesn't get any information, and just comes back. And they're like, yo, bro, we're done with you. He's like, what are you talking about? I thought you were sending me to Vegas. So I was so fascinated by his story and his
Yeah.
documentary.
Yeah.
I had to put him in the movie.
Yeah. Also too, the moment the movie starts, we obviously see the comedy store. So I want to ask you, was that where you shot sort of the documentary side of this? And how much of more of that do you have on the chopping block?
That is where I shot the testimonials of this. So like I shot 3 weeks in Detroit, all on location Detroit spots. But when I wanted to get the comedians to tell their stories, I came out to LA. The Comedy Store was where I started.
Yeah.
That's my home base. I'm a Comedy Store guy.
Yeah.
That to me is like the most legendary comedy club in the world. The most character of any comedy club. The most stuff goes down there. I've seen it all there. I've been
Yeah.
through the high moments at the Comedy Store, then the empty nights of like 1 a.m. You know what I mean? Nobody's there. Joe Rogan, Joey Diaz, you know what I mean? Sebastian, we're performing in front of 6 people in the original room.
Mm,
So I've been there. That's the iconic spot. And they
yeah.
were cool enough to like let me come shoot there. So
Yeah.
that was where I shot that.
Yeah. That's dope. That's dope. You know, the moment you see that, there's always going to be a certain level of authenticity to the storytelling and the folks involved. And that just kicked off a dope movie. And then yeah, you have a star-studded cast, as I mentioned, Ha Davis, Mike Young. I gotta tell you now, I respect Mike and his comedic chops and whatnot, but Mike as a lead actor, I was not expecting that, and I can buy into more of that here now. So, were you kind of Jeff? Excuse me, I'm saying Mike, Jeff.
Yeah.
Were you thinking more about taking these comedians, which is there's no secret unless you've been under a rock that a lot of comedians have transitioned into big time movie stars, and that wasn't just a phase. Like we're seeing it more and more now, and with Jeff now being a lead here, and then you got Michael coming in as this sleazy villain that I was just digging the entire time. And then as well too. I mean, like, what for you? And as much as you respect their comedic side, the comedy side of things, and their storytelling of that, seeing them step into this purebred actors, what did you think about the transition for them?
You know, it's funny. I knew that comedians could act if they just got their a little bit of discipline down, and you just like let them play within the realm of the story, and you didn't, you know what I mean? As long as like I stayed relaxed with them, and I stayed flexible with them, knowing that if there were moments where they were having a hard time acting, we would just do a little improv and like get them to do what they needed to do.
Yeah.
So, but I always say this, comedy dudes can be dramatic. Comedians have a drama side. If they ever got disciplined, they take over the whole game. It doesn't work the other way. It's like dramatic dudes are usually not funny and can't do comedy. But comedians can do anything if they're like, you know, if they got that talent. And so all my guys had acting chops. To be honest, I wanted to play my own lead. You know what I mean? But Jeff died. The dude showed up. The dude was so smooth looking. I was like, all right, bro, you could just play a version of me. So I just let him play me. Basically. But I knew Dustin DeBauer could act. He had been in a bunch of TV shows. Davis, I had never seen him act, but I watched a lot of his stuff online, so I knew he could do characters. Yeah. And then he's from Detroit, so we had lunch a few times. His people were like reaching out to me. They wanted to have lunch or dinner, and so we hung a bunch of times. And I was like, you know what, bro? I'm gonna write this towards your voice, so you don't have to worry about acting. So don't worry about acting. I'm just gonna write this towards how you're already funny. And he killed it. He just killed it. And he's so funny and so talented that I think he's going to have a movie career, you know, in the very near future. And I already know, you know, Cedric and Kevin Hart, all these dudes are already like talking to him about TV and whatever.
Got to.
So like, I got lucky with him. Now, don't get me wrong. When you deal with comedians all together on one movie, there were moments, like day 4, I was like, yo, fellas, I know you think this is fun.
We got a schedule.
We got a schedule, put away the weed. You know what I mean? Like, we have to work. This shit costs money. And there's a lot of people that it's going to cost money for. So, like, let's get disciplined right now. We were having too much fun in the beginning.
Yeah, I hear that. Let me get my last 2 questions in really quickly. Now, funny enough, when Cat Williams was on Club Shay Shay, which everybody watched that interview, he mentioned so much about people stealing jokes. So beyond the aspects of like the factor of this film dealing with comedians getting paid, when do you land on the title of stealing jokes and how significant that is? What is sort of, since you're like very injected into the community, what is the cardinal sin about stealing jokes? And is that a real thing?
Listen, I named it stealing jokes because they are jokes themselves and they're stealing. So I did a little double entendre move. There is an aspect of stealing a joke in the movie. So like the bigger play for the movie title was just that they are comedians who are robbing.
Yeah.
But you know, it is a cardinal sin to steal people's jokes. It's like, that's all we have is our joke. Like a one joke, if you kill it in front of thousands of people, that's worth real value. And so for someone to just go steal your joke is a cardinal sin.
Yeah.
And you gotta be checked. And so like one of the comedians in the movie, he does steal one joke, but he blows up from it. The other dude who wrote it, he didn't blow up.
Yeah.
So you gotta go to have a talk with that person and go, hey, you can't do this.
Yeah.
So in our business, obviously it happens.
Yeah.
It's not as common as like people think it is, but it
Okay.
does happen. And it, like, a friend of mine stole my joke by accident. He actually called the actor Brian Callen. He called me. He's like, dude, I've been doing your joke for a year and I just realized it. I was like, bro, I love you. I can't even get mad at you because you admitted it, but now you got to stop doing it.
Yeah.
So it happens, man. It happens.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Listen, my final question for you here, Mike. It's been so much fun talking to you, but I know you have to go soon. The moment I started watching this, the first thing I thought was like, how I want more. Was there ever a decision to turn this into a series? Was it always the idea of doing the film, and or what's next? Are you going to do more within this world that you're building, or do you have
Yeah.
another project you want to talk about?
So what's crazy is I'm actually on tour right now. So like I started this rock comedy tour simultaneously with the movie, but the movie is left for a sequel. You know what I mean? I do in my perfect world, I'm doing Stealing Jokes too. So
Okay.
I just need this one to do well.
Yeah.
And I know people are gonna dig it. And then Stealing Jokes 2 would be like the move. But I am doing a project right now. I'm on a 25 city tour and I am shooting a lot of the content. And so, the bigger play is tell the story of comedians on the road and really get behind the scenes and see how this world plays out.
My man, my man. Well, I'll be tapped in for that one for sure. Folks, we got to get out there and we got to do our diligence because as I mentioned in the very beginning, Stealing Jokes is available right now on demand and digital. Mike, I really appreciate the time today. Congratulations on this, and we'll be talking again soon. I know it because this is a banger, and I know we're gonna have more to talk about with the sequel.
For sure, man. I'll get Ha Ha on here. You could talk it out with him.
Hey, I love that.
All
Appreciate it
right.
so much. Thank you so much for your
Appreciate
time
you.
today. Yes, sir.
Okay, man.